They're not stressed about, am I going to keep my house? Well, maybe they are. They're not stressed about, am I going to be able to feed my kids? It's more so, when will it end? When can I stop spending money? Oh my God.
You just see rich people and we just kind of idolize them. We just idolize the positions that they're in, the power that they have, the wealth that they have, the homes, the pools, the whatever. When we're just like outside looking in all the time, we just fail to see that rich people are actually like getting eaten up by this consumer culture. Like they are, I mean, I hesitate to use the word victim because there are some real victims in
Yeah.
society, but they're victims of consumer culture in a way that the rest of us aren't.
We're back with Your Friends and Neighbors, episode 8. Only 2 more to go. How was this second to last episode to you?
I liked it. I think there's some good juxtaposition in it in how the characters are reacting to, the drama that's happening in the neighborhood. I really liked the opening scene of just the women in the sauna just gossiping and gabbing about like what they think has happened. Like, did Coop do it? Did he kill Paul or did he not? Or was it someone else? And like it's like quintessential neighborhood gossip gabbing. And I thought it was well shot. It was well like executed. Good dialogue.
And it's something we haven't really seen a ton of this season. It's mostly been Coop or Mel or Sam that we get their perspective. And it was like, oh, yeah, everyone is obviously talking. Now we get to see it. It was this episode that we revealed that they had a bet on if Coop was going to be indicted or not, right?
Whether he was guilty or innocent.
Only fitting for the people and everything
Yeah,
else.
because what are rich ass people going to do other than try and profit off of their friends' misfortunes?
What's the over-under on him going to jail? Yeah, rough. This was an interesting one for multiple reasons. And I'll say this, as the season was kind of wrapping up, I felt like a couple things may have gone quickly, but it felt right because you really had to set up the whole situation with Coop and why he had to go to prison and everything else in the last episodes. But this really paid off in who Barney was and his relationship to Coop and Nick and Mel and Sam and all the different feelings that have been building all season long. And I like that they did it here and not just all in episode 9. It was like, okay, give us a minute to breathe. Let what's come to the surface, breathe a little more, and give it a chance to resolve in a more meaningful way than I feel like a lot of shows kind of give us everything prep until episode 10. Episode 10, everything happens at once. We wrap it up here. No, we get a little more of this in episode 8. We get a little more of things are coming back to the surface, and we have some more vulnerable conversations that'll help us wrap up in a little slower way than all in one episode.
Yeah. They do a good job of like really showing that the situation Coop is in feels really unwinnable for him.
Yeah.
His lawyer friend who he's blackmailing is just like, we need you to take the plea. Like, you're going to have to just take the plea deal. I could probably argue, for like, get you down to like 10 years and it'll be like 6 to 8 on good behavior and you'll be out on parole. And Coop's just like, I can't miss 6 years of my kid's life for something that I didn't do. And so they do a really good job of just like making it be like, I don't know how he gets out of this. And especially while he's trying to be super coy and like mum's the word about his robbery, his thievery.
Yeah, I know we mentioned before, but it feels nice to have a protagonist who's not Superman, who has to, at least sometimes, hit the doldrums, hit some rough spots.
I mean, he's learning, but he's a piece of shit still.
He sure is.
Like, there's no two ways about it.
And you know what? If any of us expected by episode 8 or 9 that he's going to be 100% different person, we're watching the wrong show. This is not
the wrong show.
Not that kind of show, kid.
No, yeah.
I like at the beginning of this episode that he is in jail, shows up to the courtroom, and looks rough and haggard. Kind of like the fallen man. He probably smells like piss. He's had a terrible sleep. I know the last episode he's like, I could finally catch a week of sleep because, I could relax. It's where I belong, or whatever he said. Did he really belong? And the poor guy, now poorer guy, when he shows up to the courtroom, there's no one sitting with him. No one's there for him. There's Sam on the other side for, the deceased Paul. But at least his dad bails him out, which is
such a dad move.
Such a dad move when you're a rich dad. Rich dad, poor dad. Most people's dads could not bail him out for $200,000.
My dad couldn't.
Nope. And luckily his dad's able to pull out his IRA. And it's like, hey, could anything for you. Couldn't be
Wow.
me. Couldn't be me. I took some of the notes, though. I took some of the notes on what I liked, what I didn't like. Coop gives this wonderful speech where he's like, this was once my house. This was once my entire world. And he kind of has this moment of regretful longing of what used to be and what is now. But I like that even then, we don't, as an audience, at least for me, don't fully sympathize with them. I'm kind of like, I get it, you've lost a lot, but you're still a bastard.
You're still
And
you're
you
still
still
a
got
pig.
more coming to you.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. Yeah, I so the way that the other characters are reacting to Coop's like scenario, right? So you get
Mhm.
his wife, whose name is
Mel?
Mel. You get Mel, and so like what 2 episodes ago they like had their little post honeymoon whatever thing around the college campus, and they
Yeah.
slept together, and they were just like kids again. It was kind of fun, and then you're just like, oh right, this is real life. Like Mel has got to deal with this, and I thought the way they opened the episode with the gossips kind of just talking around it was a really good way to demonstrate that there's just a lot of social pressures and expectations that are on these people, and that's part of the hell of the upper middle of the upper class is that you gotta. I mean, the whole theme song is you got to keep up with the Joneses, right?
Yeah.
And Mel walks into a coffee shop, and everyone's just like looking at her and
Yeah.
talking about her. You can just tell that like the pressure of everyone's judgment and speculation is just wearing on her. And then Sam is in there,
Yeah.
and so it's been revealed that like, oh, Coop was sleeping with Sam, and Mel's heard about that. Sam has heard about that, and then they get in a fight, and people record it, and then Sam slaps Mel, and Mel punches Sam, and it gets all recorded. And honestly, like, what a panopticon moment that we live in, where just like our worst moments can just be captured and spread around for everyone to see. But in that moment as well, it's revealed to Nick that Mel slept with Coop. And
Yeah.
Mel was pretty glib about it. She just like dropped it. She didn't even like hesitate in her need to like be even with Sam. And then poor Nick is just like, wait, what? And she's just like, glass houses, baby. I'm just like, oh, wow, yeah, these guys are not holding their
Woof.
punches.
Yeah, it's interesting because you sit there and you're kind of like, do you feel for Nick? He's the reason, or part of the reason that Coop and Miller split, and he slept with her knowing she was married, and all these other things. But at the same time, I kind of watched and I was like, but Nick's like kind of a nice guy. Maybe not a great guy, but at least he's kind of
Yeah,
nice.
he's kind of nice. He's naive. He's naive.
He's definitely naive. And we see with him that, yeah, he hops in his car. He's totally over it, locks the doors. Mel's like, you're my ride home. And he just drives off. And honestly, kind of good on him. She drops the bomb right
Yeah.
there in the coffee shop, like, all right, children going to be children. Deal with it yourselves. Be adults and take a minute apart. I do like in that scene that we've all seen so many Karen TikToks or videos of people
Mhm.
freaking out. The next thing you know, there's a news article, they've lost their job. And I was like, but Mel, she's our protag's ex wife and a fellow semi protagonist. She'll be fine. I like that she got fired. You know what I mean? Like, principal pulls her in, or whoever the department chief of this school's psychology department,
Yeah, I
psychiatric
don't know.
department.
I don't.
Couldn't be my school. Anyways, and just says, hey, your patients have all canceled. You're done. You're out. You got to take a break. You got to get fired. Cool. We have some real stakes here for everybody, not just Coop, and I like that.
And they were good to be like, look, this isn't about Coop. This is about the fact that you punched someone in public and you got in a fight, and there's just
Yeah.
like, it's not for this business that we're in. Like, it's not good to do.
I know she
Yeah.
tries to therapy speak her, and she's like, don't you do that with me. Like, okay. At least it was a little more accurate, I will say. I
Yeah.
do honestly like, at least at first, Coop comes scurrying back to the house to come talk to the kids. And I don't know where I sit on it, or maybe where you do, but I like that Mel holds her ground. Now that does bite her in the butt later when the kids want to talk to him and see what's going on.
I don't know. I thought, wow, you just get a bunch of adults acting like children right here. As a mom, you're not even checking with what your kids want. You're just assuming what they want.
Yeah.
It's like your kids are like about to go to
Adultish.
college. They're like, don't childize them, don't infantilize them. You ask if they want to talk to their dad.
Yeah.
And it did come back and bite her, because then the son snuck out and went over to Coop's house to check in with him.
Yeah. Her coming to his house is much more badass and strong. This
Yeah.
episode or next. But you're right. The first one, less so. Yeah.
But like, I get that it's a show and the writers have to write and they have to increase the tension and the drama somehow.
And we know people like this, certain adults that would not be as open as Coop may be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so the A plot of this story is that so Nick goes over to Coop, opens the door, Coop opens the door and just gets punched
I love it.
by Nick. No questions, no anything. And then they just bro it out. Then they just hang out.
Dudes be duding sometimes. You know what I mean?
I guess. I've never duded with someone like that before.
The crazy part, though, is it is childish. I mean, I think the only time that's ever happened in my life, I was in elementary school and a friend was spreading rumors and we like got into it during school a little bit. And he was like, I'll meet you after school and we'll fight it out. I'm like, let's do it. And we had like a 10-minute like fist fight karate fight. He was doing karate and we were wrestling, just like beating the crap out of each other. And then his mom drove by. She's like, hey, boys, good to see you. We're like, hey.
Oh my God.
And we stopped fighting, sat down, and we were best buds afterwards. But that was second grade. You know, like you just don't do that. I do know for a lot of guys I've talked to that are maybe more into bar culture or weird undergrad stories, that sometimes is how it is. You get the aggression and anger out. There's a level of respect that comes. It's like two rams butting heads, and then you're fine.
Yeah, just like anger, I hardly know her. I don't experience aggression like that at all. And, to an audience, that'll tell you a lot about me, about what kind of a man I am. But like, if somebody wants to just come knock on my door, punch me in the face and then bro it out, give me some notice. And then we can go to it.
let me prep some ice packs.
I need to be inducted into this male tradition.
It's just a lot. It's so unbelievable. It's believable in my eyes. I'm kind of like,
It's a
that's
caricature.
just how
It's
it goes.
pastiche. Yeah. And then Barney shows up, right?
Just adding to the colorful cast of misfits that are going to hang out tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just like, gentlemen, it's on. We're going out tonight. Everyone, we're going to go out and get drunk. And he's like, I just got out of the hospital. And so now let's go get drunk. Let's go to a club and get drunk. And they're like, don't even question it. They just, okay, let's go. So they go to a club and we get to watch a bunch of you get to watch 3 middle-aged men try and be young again in a club, And Nick doesn't even miss a beat. He just starts flirting with all these girls.
Yep. And he's so smiley and nice and tall and everything else attractive. It works.
And cheerfully naive.
And Coop and Barney are like, oh, that's why he is who he is. Yeah. Okay, he still got it. Coop's dance moves, robotic and fun, maybe? I was taking notes. I'm like, for the upcoming wedding, I don't know if I want to dance like that, but maybe I'll take a few pages out of his book.
I don't know. Maybe I need to drink some scotch, and then I'll start dancing like that. Maybe that's my secret. That's been my problem, is that I have avoided scotch and whiskey because disgusting. But maybe if I did, then I could dance like that.
Maybe that's the key. Or maybe it's that Barney finds out that Coop's old buddies from his job have cocaine, and he's like, hey, I can tell you fellas are on cocaine. Let us have some. One of the two, scotch or the cocaine.
I just, there's a lot of life I haven't experienced, but I feel like I get to experience it through TV shows.
That's why we have this. For all those listeners who don't do coke, drink scotch, steal people's stuff, this is our show. This is our show to just learn about it and see it and go, wow, wild.
Yeah, I have everything I need in my life, and so I'm going to just be self-destructive. Because I can't feel anything. So Barney takes off his armband, his cast, and then he starts doing the worm. And he doesn't feel any pain because how could he feel pain? He's on so much coke and Vicodin and alcohol. He's just numb. And it's just a silly evening with the boys.
Silly evening. Also, knowing this is like some small townish, rich area, where are they going? Because they're not like in Manhattan from what I see. But they're obviously far enough away. I not that I need a map, but sometimes I'm like, are you guys all like in a 45-minute Uber, totally fine with what you're about to go do after like Coop's thinking about prison and everything else and cool with it?
I mean, there's a lot of writing conveniences in this. Like, where the hell did Nick get his suit from? Did he go home? Did he go home to go get that? And did Mel see him get his his double-breasted suit? Like, no, just don't even worry about it.
He keeps a suit in the car. You know, his driver's got an extra
car.
suit. It's the
I
road
mean, honestly,
suit.
that's probably the answer. He keeps a suit in
Yeah.
the car.
He keeps a suit in the car. I also just love like the having a driver. Again, something I would never know about. Is great for all these different plot moments and points. I do
Is there like a
love. Oh, go
is
ahead.
there like an Uber premium? Where like it's Uber, but it's for the upper class.
Oh, you mean Uber Black?
Is that what it is?
It's
Oh,
a
dude,
double the price, and it's a nice, fancy suburban Cadillac, like a nice SUV, and it's like premium.
huh. Dang. Well, my business idea, I guess, has already been taken. So, damn. Back to the drawing board.
You know, I love at least with this trio that we get a personal moment in between it all. They get to the golf course. They're drunk, they're high, they're all over the place. And Barney finally just sits down and says, Coop, and doesn't say it, but he's like, come on, gimme. And Coop's like, hey, we're here. Ask me whatever you want to ask me. And Barney says what's on his mind, where he's like, I'm not afraid of asking. I'm afraid of not caring either way what the answer is. And it's like, ah, dang. Rough, but at least we get a real vulnerable moment where in the hospital it was kind of like, get the hell out of here. I don't want to hear from you. Now it's, I don't think I care what the answer is. You've already made me mad enough. Okay.
Yeah. And isn't it so good that all it takes is a little cocaine, alcohol, and drugs to become vulnerable? Like,
Nine
it's so
out of 10
simple.
therapists recommend cocaine, drugs, and punching a boy out before going out, you know?
Yeah.
Oof. Well, I
Then,
guess, oh, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, then Barney gives us like our monologue, I think, for the season of just like that. The episode title is, I think, How Did We Become These People?
When did we become these people?
When did we become these people? And that line comes from Barney's little speech that he gives.
Yeah, in fact, for everyone listening, we're going to play just a little bit of it right now so you get to jog your memory, or if you haven't seen the episode yet, get a little taste.
We've got rooms in this house we've never even used. Now we're building more. Grace spends too much. I spend too much. It's like a bodily function at this point. We eat, we drink, we buy all this shit. And then we talk about the shit we bought, and then we talk about other shit we're gonna buy, and then we go buy that. And sometimes I just walk around the house and I just look at the sheer volume of shit we have, and it fucking mystifies me. I mean, when did we become these people? Like when did our lives get so empty? And we have to constantly stuff them full of all this shit.
Do you ever feel that way? You probably don't.
I don't. I don't ever feel that way.
Good on you.
I rarely buy shit. The only shit that I buy, food and gas. That's it. And books. I books. I like to read.
As one who's sometimes
You ever
had
feel
an
that way?
Amazon or eBay problem, I can't imagine just, like he says, he and his wife constantly buying, racking up the checkbook. Who even uses checks? Anyways,
His mother-in-law does.
his mother-in-law tried to hand him a check. I like you said, the title of the episode, When Do We Become These People? That is the thesis of the show of when wealth takes over all mental faculties and you get into this weird fairy tale land that you don't actually live comfortably in. You're just living to keep up with the Joneses, and you're stressed and you're worried. It really just seems like a damning destructive way to live, even though it's probably way more cush and carefree than those on the opposite ends of the financial spectrum, right? They're not stressed about, am I going to keep my house? Well, maybe they are. They're not stressed about, am I going to be able to feed my kids? It's more so, when will it end? When can I stop spending money? Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, I think this show is just really, it's smart about
Yeah.
is that, like, I think in the hands of lesser writers or like less experienced writers, you just see rich people and we just kind of idolize them. We just idolize the positions that they're in, the power that they have, the wealth that they have, the homes, the pools, the whatever. Because, I certainly do. Like, I was on a walk yesterday and I was just looking at people's backyards as I was on this river trail. I'm just like, damn, you have a pickleball court in your backyard with a trampoline in the ground, like,
Yeah.
and a water feature. I'm like, I want some of that stuff. But what we, when we're just like outside looking in all the time, we just fail to see that rich people are actually like getting eaten up by this consumer culture. Like, they are I mean, I hesitate to use the word victim because there are some real victims in society, but they're victims of consumer culture in a way that the rest of us aren't. Because, like, the difference in a little Fitbit that tells me the time and gives me my heart rate, and St. Chanterelle Michael's watch piece that goes for $110,000 is almost nothing. Like, there's no real difference there. It's all imaginary. It's all constructed value that is ultimately ridiculous. And I think that we're watching these characters, well, at least Coop, Barney here, really wrestling with the ridiculousness of their lives, of their need to showboat and grandstand and just like project this energy of awesomeness and wealth. And like, it's hell for them. It is literally hell for them.
Yeah.
And it chews them up. So I'm just like, hey, if there's any rich people listening and you want out, give me half your money and then we'll see how I deal with it. Then we'll see how you deal with having less.
The People with Less Fund, established by Madison Daniels.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we have Coop, after Barney's speech, kind of wrestling with things and agreeing with him. And then he breaks out, and I took a little quote out of there too, where he's like, I was wrong about all the rules. The fact is that there are no rules. And as he kind of sits there and chews on and says a few more things, and he goes, so anyway, I've been stealing stuff from people's houses, but Barney's already passed out. And you have this moment where it's like, I know Coop wants to tell someone else and get it out because he needs to get it off his chest.
Yeah.
But the fact that Barney passes out in this moment is like poetic irony and like perfect writing of like, boom, does he really care he's going to tell somebody else? No. Yeah. He's just as drunken and high and spilling his guts as Barney is. Tomorrow he'll go back to status quo, and that's okay.
Yeah. And not just will he ever be able to tell someone, but will the person that he tells be able to care?
Yeah. I really thought as Coop comes home and Hunter's there on the couch, I was like, is he going to tell his son? Luckily, he doesn't. Because first off, you should not put that on a child to keep that kind of secret. But second off, it's honestly kind of sweet. He walks up, Hunter's asleep with his headphones on, and Coop's like, oh, man, on the day he was born, XYZ, and I feel all these things. He takes his headphones off, and he's really trying to be a dad. And Hunter asks him a little bit of, Dad, did you do it? No. Okay, you didn't kill her. Okay, is everything okay? And he's like, well, I don't know. I'll have to find out. And then Coop does show a tiny inch of growth and goes, what else is it, son? What else do you want to talk about? And Hunter's like, I got a girlfriend. Oh, and it's sweet of like, okay, through the whole season, we've seen him first showboating. I'm going to be a dad now that I have no job and no one knows. But now we see a little bit of like, oh, he is growing a little bit. And there is a little sweet dad-son moment. Will it last? I don't know. But Hunter, if nothing else, is a good kid, which I do like.
Yeah. And then our C plot, which is the sister.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. She goes to her ex's house with a record that belonged to her ex like 10 years ago. And is just like, I'm just going to do a little meet cute, sweet thing and bring back my record to my ex's house, who literally has a family, by the way. And we're lucky that Bruce opens the door and he's like, what are you doing here? Like, don't you get that, like, our little illicit affair can't be public?
And it's over.
And she doesn't get that. It's a complicated thing that's been going on here. And Bruce is kind of a dick too. And then by the one's sad, minus Hunter. I mean, Hunter's probably a little sad because his dad's probably going to jail, but he's got a girlfriend.
He's got a girlfriend,
That's pretty cool.
Guess as we're talking plots, we have one more, what is this, D or E plot? Yeah. Elena settles up with Felix. She took the money out of Coop's basement little hideaway, which he's frustrated at first. I know he goes, there's your F plot. He goes over to the pawn shop to yell, it wasn't her. Okay, comes back. Elena settles up, and Felix is kind of pissed because Elena's brother, Chivo, is fully off the hook. And so he's kind of got no power anymore. It's down to just like, hey, you're paid off. Leave us alone. Good on Elena, though. Good on Elena. We don't see as much of her these last two episodes, but I like, at least in this episode, that she does the right thing with Coop's money, but does the right thing to finally get her brother into the clear Hopefully he stays there and we get that wrapped up here.
Yeah, I think if this show had it, like, if I was going to critique the show, it'd be that it feels like they got a lot going on. Like maybe too many plot lines, because like there's a version of this season that could have just been kind of about Coop and Elena and their exploits and like, really looking at the differences in lifestyles between the upper class and the class that supports them. There's a version of this season where that was more prominent. There was a version of this season where Lena was actually the main character and she was the one orchestrating a lot of this stuff. Like that would have been fun to watch. And so instead it just kind of feels like there's a version of this where like Coop is really going deep into the underground world and like Lou becomes his mentor instead of just this lady that he occasionally interacts with. And so, but instead it just kind of feels like we've got a lot of potential areas that the story can go. And it certainly is diving deep in some of these areas as it should, but like it could have gone really deep. It could have gone deeper in these areas at the expense of having some of these lesser plot lines going on.
Yeah, I still chalk it up to shorter writers' rooms and less development lead time because studios and stuff, they just don't want to spend the money and time on it. But I think you're right. If you had gotten the writers into a room for 6 months and said, all right, here's where we have A, B, C, D, E, F plots. You like this part, go develop this. And then we're going to bring it back and see how it looks throughout the season. I think you could have come back and been like, oh, yeah, the Elena thing's less interesting than this. Or, Sam and her situation with her parents or whatever else, that's more interesting than this. And we would have had some simplifying. But I do wonder now, knowing that season 2 is already greenlit, which plot lines they're going to really follow into the next one and strengthen, and what they'll kind of cut and let it be. Like watching Breaking Bad or other of these hit shows.
Yeah.
You see the season, they really kind of clip things and take the better parts to move forward.
Yeah.
Anything else in this episode before we wrap up?
No, I think we covered it pretty good.
Episode 8 was a good one. Episode 9 is titled Everything Becomes Symbol and Irony. It's the final episode of the season. It's a good hour plus long, so buckle up for that. I liked episode 9, so we're going to be able to talk about it a little more next week, but I liked how it wrapped up in certain ways. Other things I have issues with, but overall, not a bad way to end the season. Until next week, make sure you watch good movies and TV. Maybe rewatch some of Your Friends and Neighbors if you'd like to do that. If you haven't already caught our Studio series, go back and listen to that as you rewatch the Studio or watch for the first time. And we will be back again next Friday for the season finale.